Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about the Schengen Zone and what Americans need to be aware of when planning to travel in Europe and how the Schengen more or less works against Americans in Europe when you want to go out there and do these long trips like Julie and I are doing. We're traveling around the world. We're going to spend a month in this country, 2 months in that country, and try to get a feel for a location. Right now, as you're aware, we're traveling through South America. We are going to be going to Europe and spending 5 years or so in Europe, traveling throughout the countries in Europe in approximately June of 2021. We had to do some pre-planning to figure out how we can do this because of the Schengen. The Schengen Zone is a zone made up of 26 European countries that more or less, if you are an American, we have to think of it almost as one country. So when you are traveling as an American, in most places you can go and stay in a country for 90 days before you have to leave. When we're dealing with the Schengen, which is 26 countries in Europe, we are now dealing with them, thinking of them as one country. So when you go to the Schengen Zone, or within that Schengen Zone of 26 countries, you have a 90-day window every 180 days to spend in the Schengen Zone for the 26 countries. So you cannot just go from France to Spain and start a new 90 days. If you spend a month in France, a month in Spain, and then you go to Austria for a month, that's your 90 days. You have to leave and go outside the zone. And so being strategic about these long-term plans is very important unless you want to fly back to the States every 90 days and spend 90 days in the States. So we have a place in Europe in a little country called Montenegro. So first we're going to talk about the Schengen Zone, who's in it, what it entails, and then we're going to talk about how to get around the zone and what countries are favorable for Americans to go to. And so let's go ahead and talk about the Schengen. So Europe can be a little bit of a confusing place. You have the Eurozone, you have the European Union, and now we're talking about the Schengen. Some countries are part of the Eurozone, some countries are not part of the Schengen. So let's take a look at the countries that are actually part of the Schengen Zone. This map shows every country in blue is part of the Schengen. The countries in gray will eventually become part of the Schengen Zone, and that's important to remember before you invest money into property in those particular countries. So the current Schengen countries consist of Austria, Hungary, Norway, Belgium, Iceland, Poland, Czech Republic, Italy, Portugal, Denmark, Latvia, Slovakia, Estonia, Liechtenstein, Slovenia, Finland, Lithuania, Spain, France, Luxembourg, Sweden, Germany, Malta, Switzerland, Greece, and the Netherlands. Countries that will be expected to join the Schengen Zone are Bulgaria, Romania, and Croatia. So the Schengen is beneficial for the countries that are in the zone. The countries that share or are part of the Schengen Zone are able to work in each other's countries and stay as long as they would like to and go from border to border, similar to the way a person from Arizona can go work in the state of New York without having to go through a lot of red tape. So this allows for border-free crossing between these different countries and to allow their citizens to work in each other's countries. And it's a benefit for those countries that are part of it. To be part of this zone, you have to have strong borders and be able to keep illegal immigration from happening. And that's where the countries such as Croatia, Romania, and Bulgaria are in the process trying to become part of the Schengen Zone. So at some point they will become part of the Schengen. So now for an American, if you go to the Schengen Zone, you are now only able to stay 90 days within the entire zone. This Schengen was put into place in 1985, and unfortunately America was not part of the consideration. So at this point, you'll have to go ahead and find a place outside of the Schengen Zone if you choose to stay in Europe beyond the 90 days. On a positive note, if you're only planning on spending 90 days in Europe, the Schengen Zone makes it easy to travel between countries without having to stop at a border to get your passport stamped. Currently, all you need to enter the Schengen Zone is a U.S. passport. there's no visa requirement. However, coming in January of 2021, Americans, if they want to go into the Schengen zone, are going to need to apply for an ETIAS. The ETIAS waiver stands for European Travel Information and Authorization System, which will require U.S. passport holders to apply online for an entry permit in Europe before entering the area. It's similar to the ETSA that the United States uses. This process allows EU authorities to pre-screen all travelers and confirm their status before permitting them to enter or even to board a flight to Europe. It's supposed to improve the security measures throughout Europe. U.S. travelers will have to pay €7 when applying for the ETIAS, and it's estimated that the application process is going to take 10 minutes to complete online. An ETIAS can be used for 3 years and can be used to enter and remain in Europe for up to the 90 days within a 6-month period. So if you wanted to remain in Europe beyond 90 days as an American citizen, you can opt to pay for a very expensive golden visa that they offer in Spain as well as Portugal for €500,000 or more. Or you can look at going to other countries that are not part of the Schengen and spending 90 days there. So let's take a look at your options. So looking at the map, a viable option is the UK. The United Kingdom allows Americans to stay there for up to 6 months. Now for us, Julie and I, we have 2 dogs. It's a little bit more difficult for us to travel to the UK because of having pets. So we're looking at other locations, but the UK is a great option to go and wait out your time till you can enter the Schengen zone again. We're looking at areas more towards Eastern Europe. Now, in the former Yugoslavia, Slovenia is a part of the Schengen already, and Croatia expects to join. Romania and Bulgaria, which surround the Balkan area, also expects to join, and they're part of the EU currently. So when we're looking at the Balkan area, you have Bosnia-Herzegovina, Serbia, North Macedonia, Kosovo, Albania, and my particular favorite, Montenegro. So Montenegro is a great little country to go to, gives you that Western European feel with the low Eastern European prices. So we'll do a deeper dive in Montenegro here in just a moment. Another viable option is the Ukraine, which also will allow Americans to stay there for 90 days every 180 days. So it'd be quite easy to skirt around the Schengen as it currently is set up. As a reminder, Croatia, Romania, and Bulgaria are currently not part of the Schengen zone. Now, we absolutely love Montenegro. Beautiful little country. I hope you enjoy some of the pictures I'm going to slide through here. And we also rent our place out in Montenegro as an Airbnb. So we'll show you some of the pictures of our place as well. It's in downtown Kotor, a beautiful medieval city, and it's got a lot of great features to it. So Montenegro is relatively an unknown country to most Americans. Montenegro was formed in 2006, and they separated from Serbia. For a while, they went by the name of the country was Serbia-Montenegro with the combined countries. Through a peaceful vote in 2006, Montenegro seceded and separated and became independent from Serbia. During the Balkan Wars, the Yugoslav Wars, Montenegro was relatively untouched as far as fighting within the Montenegro country. Montenegro is part of NATO, and it uses the euro. Montenegro has been moving more and more towards the west and has a relatively very low cost of living in comparison to most of Western Europe. So by going to Montenegro, you're able to reset your clock for the Schengen zone and start a new 90 days. You can stay in Montenegro up to 90 days. Now, Montenegro's got a lot of beautiful areas. Kotor, where we happen to have a home, has 3 to 4 cruise ships a day that come through in the summer months, and it's packed with tourists. There are still a lot of Russian tourists that will hit the beaches in Budva. The Budva area is known as the Russian Riviera. For decades, many Eastern Europeans from Ukraine, Romania, Russia would flock to Montenegro as their summer getaway. The high time in Montenegro for tourism is going to go from late May to September. I would encourage you to go there anytime during the year, but during the summer months there's a lot of fun, but expect the tourism and the high tourist crowds. Initially, we bought our home in Montenegro as a way to get residency status, which would allow us to stay in Europe or to stay in Montenegro as long as we would like, but we would have to stay in Montenegro for a minimum of 6 months during the year. However, Montenegro recently changed their rules to achieve residency status by owning a home in Montenegro, and the home has to be worth 250,000 euros. You would have to stay in the country 11 months out of the year. So for our purposes of traveling throughout the continent of Europe, that does not achieve the goal that we had. So at this point, Montenegro will be our hub that we'll go to a couple times a year and maybe spend a couple months. We may also be going over to Serbia for a while. My wife absolutely loves Serbia. The people there are very, very friendly. And as far as safety, we feel as safe in Montenegro as we would anywhere in Western Europe, or even safer than most places in the United States. So I would tell you that I'm very comfortable with my wife being in Montenegro alone. A matter of fact, she did fly into Belgrade with a female friend for a quick trip to Montenegro, and they drove from Belgrade into Montenegro alone, and they had a great time, and I feel completely secure and safe with letting Julie explore the country and go in different areas of this country with or without me. So I would tell you that Montenegro is a place where you can go and get a high value for your dollar, feel safe, and spend some time outside of the Schengen Zone. So I would encourage Montenegro as a place to go and explore and to set up your hub if you're choosing to travel Europe, to get out of the Schengen Zone and get your 90-day clock back. We also plan to spend some time in the Ukraine as well as Serbia, and as long as Romania, Croatia, and Bulgaria are not part of the Schengen Zone, we'll try to visit those countries as well during our non-Schengen period. So our hope is to spend about 6 months out of the year in Schengen territory and the other 6 months outside of the Schengen Zone. So this is our home in Kotor, Montenegro. It's an investment also. We bought this in 2016, knowing that there's supply and demand. No new homes could be built inside the city of Kotor. It's a walled medieval city. No cars go in there, and the buildings that are there are those that are there. It's a UNESCO heritage site, and it's a great place for tourism. 3 to 4 cruise ships a day in the summer months will show up, and 1 or 2 often in the winter. So there's always something to do, nightlife, restaurants. And because no new buildings can go in there and the popularity of the country, it becomes more and more valuable each year. If you wish to rent our Airbnb, the information will be provided below. We bought this little place, fixed it up. It has all of the needs that we're going to have, and this will be our hub that we'll be going to for 3 or 4 months out of the year when we're trying to leave the Schengen Zone. And Kotor Montenegro is a great place to spend a few months out of the year. So I would highly recommend considering Montenegro for you travelers that are looking for a place to where you can go, get out of the Schengen, and have a really good time. The cost of living in Montenegro is similar to Ecuador. Looking up on Numbeo, the dollar value in Montenegro and Ecuador are almost exactly the same. Because we have 2 small dogs with us, we may be looking at eventually selling our location here and purchasing another location within Montenegro. So if you do have a desire to potentially purchase this home of ours, let me know. Again, we love Montenegro, but because of our dogs, this might not be our best setup. So if you have an interest in using our home to get out of the Schengen or potentially to purchase it, look at our email information down below. Also, if you have a need for a realtor or any other professional services within the country of Montenegro, we'll be glad to put you in contact with our contacts. Now, if you're interested in renting our Airbnb, go ahead and email me down below. I'm going to put the link to the Airbnb too, but if you want to email us directly, you can email us directly below. We are halfway contemplating maybe we might sell it in the future because, as you know, we're traveling with our 2 dogs, and being that we're in a place in downtown Kotor, in a beautiful little medieval place, there's not a whole lot of green space for us to take the dogs. So depending on what our situation's looking like, we might be trying to look at a place that maybe was going to give us a little bit more outdoor space for our dogs to easily let them go out, instead of having to figure out where to take them within this little medieval town to take care of business, if you know what we mean. So anyway, I hope you decide to subscribe, follow us on our journeys. We'll be in Montenegro before you know it. That'll be June of 2021. Right now we're in South America, in Ecuador. We're going to be hitting Argentina soon. We'll hit Peru. We'll be hitting Colombia. Just follow along, subscribe, give us a like. I hope this has been informative. And again, my email is going to be down in the subject line, or in the description. So go ahead and look down below into the description. You'll see our email if you want to talk to us about the place that we own in Kotor Montenegro. If you want to stay there, you can find out what the rates are for the period of time. We'll hook you up with our property manager. And if by chance you want to buy it, maybe we'll entertain those types of offers as well. But anyhow, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we hope that you're going to follow us. And everybody have a fantastic day. Don't leave yet. My Chihuahua Gracie wanted me to pass on a message to you. For those of you unaware, I'm wearing my No Dogs Left Behind sweatshirt or hoodie today as a reminder that there's dogs in China that are currently being butchered and used for the meat and fur trade. And No Dogs Left Behind is a great not-for-profit that is out there rescuing dogs from the slaughterhouse and trying to rescue them and bring them back to the States. They've got dogs in the shelter in Beijing right now. If you can, go down to the subject also. I'm going to put a link to the No Dogs Left Behind website. Follow that organization if you can. Contribute. Also, if you're going to China in the future, they're looking for people that will be able to fly back with the dog down in the cargo. So anytime, if you're going to China as a tourist, let them know so that you can help to rescue a dog by them doing the paperwork and allowing a dog to fly with you back to the States on your return trip. So anyway, I want to make sure that everybody is aware that this is just not a pretty jacket. There's a purpose to it.